Hello, everyone. Welcome to Start the Week with Spencer. This is our weekly webinar here at Doman International, where we take questions from parents around the world with children with special needs. And we really encourage parents to bring their biggest and toughest questions to the session so that we can answer them. Before we get into questions, I'd like to make a few quick announcements. So first of all, tomorrow is one of the most important days of the year for Doman International. It's a day called Giving Tuesday. And Giving Tuesday is a very important day for nonprofits around the world because it's the day that nonprofits receive the most donations of any day of the year. And so tomorrow, Doman International, being a nonprofit organization here in the United States, is going to be hosting a special talent show online. So our parents from around the world, we have parents from 80 different countries with children with special needs, have shared videos with us of new talents their children have learned over the last year. So some of these children learn musical instruments, some of them learn new physical skills, newfound artistic abilities. So tomorrow during our Giving Tuesday event, we're going to be sharing the different videos that parents have sent to us of their children showing off their new talents. So it's going to be a ton of fun, just watching the kids do new things that they've never done before. And I have to say, some of the talents are really amazing. Some of the talents aren't just exceptional for children with special needs, but for any child. So for example, just to give you a little bit of a sneak peek, we have one child who demonstrates an ability called perfect pitch, where they can hear a sound and they can walk up to a piano and play that sound on the piano, which is Colleen knows this from her musical background. It's a very impressive ability for children to have. So just things like that are very impressive and exciting. And we'll be able to watch the videos of the children. And these children range in age from being babies all the way to adults. So that will be a ton of fun. And so we encourage you to join us. It starts at 2 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow on Tuesday. And of course, anyone is invited to come. And if you are able to donate to a nonprofit organization this year, I would ask that you consider making Doman International your nonprofit of choice. Our donations help us greatly in terms of doing new research, giving more scholarships to families for their child's treatment, and expanding our staff. And those are three things we are doing on a constant basis that we've done this year. We've given more scholarships this year than any year before. We have done more research this year than any year before. So, the donations of our very generous donors have gone a long way. And it doesn't matter whether you donate $5 or $5 million. We really appreciate the generosity of all of our donors, and it goes a long way to help our families. Okay, well, Colleen, I understand that we have a couple of pre-submitted questions, so maybe we can start with those.
Yeah. So the first question I have says, wondering about CP. So I'm going to assume that this parent has a child whose diagnosis is of cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
So if you could, speak to
Talk about cerebral palsy. Yeah. So cerebral palsy is one of the most common diagnoses that we've seen here at Doman International. My grandfather, Glenn Doman, when he started this work in the 1950s, was especially dedicated and concerned to the well-being of children with cerebral palsy. And in many ways, he dedicated his life to finding ways to help these children walk and create programs that helps reduce their spasticity and rigidity, which so often inhibits their ability to move. So we have a 70-year history of working with children with cerebral palsy, with helping reduce their spasticity, with helping them learn to walk and run, and help them with clarity of speech or learning to speak if that's a challenge. It depends on the child. So yeah, we have a long history of working with these children, and we've created many programs to help even immobile children, children who cannot move at all, uh, begin that pathway toward walking and helping them achieve walking. My dad, Douglas Doman, who is the founder of Doman International, even wrote a book called From Immobility to Walking. So if you go to Amazon and you type in From Immobility to Walking, there's a book there by my dad, Douglas Doman, that really outlines a pathway of how do you get a child moving with the Doman method. I would definitely recommend for a child with cerebral palsy a holistic approach like the Doman method. So what we would do, for example, with a child with cerebral palsy is, first of all, we would start the Doman oxygenation program, which is a respiratory program that increases oxygen delivery to the brain that helps the children become less spastic. Many parents of children who have children with spasticity and rigidity issues, they realize a kind of funny thing. If they check their child at night when the child is sleeping, the child who is spastic during the day all of a sudden is very relaxed when they're sleeping. And parents will often ask us about that. Why is that? It's because the oxygen demands on the brain when they're sleeping are far lower, right? There's less energy demand on oxygen. And so while the child's sleeping, they're able to loosen up. But then when they wake up and all of a sudden the brain needs more oxygen to function, the spasticity returns. And so when we can increase oxygen delivery to the brain, we can reduce that rigidity and spasticity that helps children with movement. Now, even if we were just able to reduce spasticity, that doesn't necessarily mean a child would learn to walk and run. We need to also have physical programs focused on getting that child moving. So the most famous physical program we have is something called Glenn's Ladder. Glenn's Ladder is a program that we've used for almost 7 decades to get children walking for the first time. And my dad writes about it in his book, From Immobility to Walking. But we also talk about it in this book, The Doman Method, From Special Needs to Wellness. And so I would highly recommend, for any child who comes to the Doman International Clinic, we would do the oxygenation program to reduce spasticity. We'd also do the Glenn's Ladder program, likely to help them learn to walk. All of the Doman physical programs, mobility programs, have 2 very important aspects to them that make them much more successful than a lot of traditional therapies. So the first thing is, any mobility program that we give to a child is what is called self-eliminating, meaning if the child uses that piece of equipment enough, they will get to a new mobility level where they no longer need that piece of equipment. So in other words, they become independent of the treatment, not dependent on it. It's very important because if you look at a lot of conventional therapies, children build dependence on the treatment, right? Meaning they're given a drug, their body essentially becomes addicted to the drug. And if you ever were to try to remove that drug, they're now dependent on it, right? Or they might be given something like a wheelchair. Well, the wheelchair can help them navigate from one space to another, but the child becomes completely dependent on it. They don't learn to walk. So the Doman method, instead of trying to create dependency, we try to create independence through self-eliminating programs. And so that's the whole goal with the program: help the child reach a new level where you can eliminate the prior piece of equipment. The second thing that our mobility programs do is they take the enemy of gravity and make it into a friend. So if we take the example of the inclined floor, which is one of the first physical programs that we do with children who are immobile. I'm not sure if people can see this picture in the book. You can see a child on an inclined track. And can you see that pretty clearly, Colleen? Is that, yeah, okay.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's pretty clear. Yeah, maybe
okay.
a little closer to the camera.
Yeah.
Like,
so
I know yeah, that's better.
Yeah, so you can see that this child is crawling down an inclined track. And we've taken the enemy of gravity, which is pushing that child's body down into the earth. And by putting them on an incline, now that enemy of gravity becomes a friend. And so when that child now moves his arms and legs, he will actually start to travel down that track. And so now you've taken a immobile child and gotten them moving for the first time. So we take gravity, we take it from being an enemy of an immobile child, and we make it into a friend. And so that's how over the last 70 years, we have, in my experience, had the best results in terms of getting immobile children walking. I don't know of any other, I actually don't know of any other methodology that even publishes their results in terms of helping children to walk. I've never gone onto a website of a therapy that said, in Voita, this percentage of children learn to walk with Voita. I'm not just picking on Voita. It's just the first thing that came to my head. But you don't see that. But on Doman International's website, we actually publish the exact results of what percentage of children learn to walk on our program. So for a child with cerebral palsy, absolutely look into the Doman Method. I would recommend getting the books. I'd also recommend you jump on a call with Colleen too, so she can tell you more about the program and next steps.
Terrific. Thank you. I'll make sure Riham gets the message. Wonderful. All right. And our next question, Margona is asking, she's interested in Gestalt language processing, how to deal with it, and how to increase concentration and focus.
Sorry, Colleen, can you repeat the first part of the question?
Sorry, yes. So she said she's interested in Gestalt language processing. Okay. How to deal with it and how to increase concentration and focus.
Yeah, so there are many parts of the program that can help with auditory and language processing. And maybe I'll highlight one just to give a kind of clear explanation. So if you look at the Doman Method reading program, what we do with the Doman Method reading program is we combine a visual stimulus with an auditory stimulus. In other words, we show the child something visually and we tell them what it is. And unfortunately, I usually have materials nearby, but I recently cleaned up my office for Thanksgiving. It doubles as our dining room and I don't have my reading materials next to me. But what we do with the Doman Method reading program is we show the child a written word. So imagine a big red word that says elephant. So we hold up a card that says elephant in big red words and we tell the child elephant. And the reason why this can be so powerful for children with special needs is that very often they are better visual learners than they are auditory learners. So we're combining a strength, vision, with perhaps a weakness, which is hearing. And so what we do is when the child sees the word along with hearing it, now they're getting the stimulus elephant through two sensory pathways rather than one. And that can be very helpful for children because now they have something visual that they connect with their hearing. And in fact, we also do this with pictures. So we'll show a picture of a, chair, let's say, and we'll say to the child, chair. So now the child, again, gets something visual, just one thing in their visual field, and they get to hear what it is. And this really helps the child with auditory processing. Now, we have many different auditory treatments for improving processing, for reducing auditory hypersensitivity. We have different music treatments that we use that are very effective for improving a child's ability to process speech and sounds. And that helps with speech development as well. But yes, that's for language processing in general, combining visual stimulation along with auditory can be very powerful. As for your question about focus and attention, one of the first places we will look for children who might be hyperactive or lack visual attention and focus is we take a very close look at their diet and at their gut health. So what we'll often start doing is first, our nutrition team, because we at Doman International, we have a team specifically focused on nutrition. So for example, they often give certain kinds of supplements to improve gut health. Sometimes that includes things like probiotics, but sometimes they will do certain protocols to, some children have things like parasites in their gut that need to be treated, or they might have something called small intestine bacterial overgrowth where they have bad bacteria. So some children need certain cleansing protocols to address gut related issues. And then when we do that, we see all of these neurological improvements in the child. And that isn't necessarily, let's say, common sense that treating the gut would help the brain function better. But actually, the gut and the brain are constantly communicating with one another. I say it often on this session, but there are actually 500 million brain cells in the human digestive tract, so that are constantly communicating with the brain and vice versa. So when we can reduce the bad bacteria and flora in the gut, in which there's often an overgrowth in children with focus and concentration issues, and when we can increase good bacteria and flora, we tend to see the child start to become more settled and improve focus and concentration. So we do a lot, and then we'll often remove things like sugar, certain things like processed foods, and other foods that help feed that bad bacteria and flora. All right. Well, I see some questions that have come in. I'll go to a few more questions. Here's one from Instagram. I actually have a question about Valencio because every time he whispers the music treatment from the Safe and Sound program, he has a problem with it. Does he get overstimulated? What's the reason for that? Okay, so this question is specifically about a child who's on the Doman Method, and this child is getting a auditory treatment. I'm saying this for all the other parents listening. This child is getting a program called the Safe and Sound Protocol, which is one of the auditory treatments that we use at Doman International. We often use it for children who have a lot of the issues that parents have asked about already. They could be children who are hyperactive, who have problems with focus and concentration. They could be children with language processing issues or speech issues. So, yeah, the reason why certain children will talk or make sounds during the Safe and Sound protocol, in my experience, it's actually because some children make sound to drown out sound. This is something that we've known for a long time, well before we started the Safe and Sound protocol, because there are some children that constantly emit sounds to drown out sounds from their environment. So, for example, sometimes you'll see children who are constantly humming or talking to themselves, like that. And they're doing that because they're creating a sound inside of their own head to drown out other sounds. Or sometimes in even extreme situations, children will even rock and cover their ears. So you'll see some children exhibit a behavior like, where they're actually rocking and making sounds to themselves. And again, they're doing that to drown out the chaos. And it's being overly sensitive to sounds is extremely upsetting for a person. And it really exhausts them. And they often, the only way they can kind of escape from the chaos of the environment is by covering their ears or producing their own sounds. So when a child is doing an auditory treatment like Safe and Sound and they're producing their own sounds, it's usually because they are trying to tune out the sound of the program. Perhaps there are certain frequencies that they find irritating. And usually what I recommend in these cases is reducing the volume of the music. So trying to reduce the volume, reduce the intensity to hopefully make the child a little calmer. Or it could mean reducing the duration of the sessions, and seeing if we can reach a point where the child is calmer. Because with the Safe and Sound protocol, as you probably remember when we explained it for Valencio, the Safe and Sound protocol stimulates the vagus nerve, which is very important for emotional regulation. And this is why we use it with children who might deal with anxiety or hyperactivity or irritability, right? The Safe and Sound protocol can help with that. But one of the things with that program, because we want the child to relax and listen to the music, we don't want the child to be stressed during the sessions. So it's important with that program specifically to reduce the volume, reduce the durations of the sessions, and see if we can get the child to the place where they're comfortable listening to the music. Once we get there, then we can build back up to the full program. But that would be my biggest recommendation. Reduce the volume, reduce the length of the session, and usually that really, really helps. All right, let's see what else we've got here. We've got a question here from Ella. Ella says, thank you for this modernized book that I purchased as soon as I learned my baby's diagnoses. I already have the older versions. Perfect. Thank you, Ella. Ella says that she's the mom of a 3-month-old with Down syndrome and is starting him on the Doman program. I have 3 questions regarding the track. You write that he should not stay on the track for more than 2 minutes. My baby stays longer, but he takes breaks. Sometimes he will do it in maybe a minute, 1 meter long. Sometimes he takes big breaks, but does not seem to mind. Should I take him off as soon as he seems uncomfortable? Is that okay? So generally, first of all, Ella, great question. Congrats on starting with the crawling track and getting started with your 3-month-old. So the reason why we recommend putting young children on the crawling track for only 2 minutes at a time is because we want to keep the session so short that they are happy the next time you put them on the track. It's a principle of the Doman method where we say always stop before the child wants to stop. And so here, let me give you an example of this. So let's say you put a child down on a track and they're happy to crawl down for 2 minutes. And then you pick them up after 2 minutes. Their memory of the crawling track is, I had a good time. But if you leave a child on the crawling track, let's say for 5 minutes, and they start crying, and then you pick them up because now they're very upset, they've learned 2 things. First of all, they've learned if I cry, I get picked up. So that's not ideal. Maybe they learn to utilize that more often. But the second thing they've learned is, oh, I didn't like that. That was a hard session, right? And so both of those things makes it more likely the next time you put the baby down on the crawling track, maybe he starts crying immediately because now he associates it with difficulty. And he's also learned if you cry, you get picked up. So that's why it's better to try to stick to a 2-minute session, but try to do it more often during the day. So it'd be better, set a timer. When it rings at 2 minutes, pick your baby up, say, wow, great job, you did amazing. And then 5 minutes later, come back and put him back on the incline track. So try to get more sessions in during the day, but of a shorter duration. Some of these things are just best practices that we've learned over the years, and sometimes, unfortunately, learning the hard way, where we've had children who just refuse to do the crawling track because we left them on the track too long. So we learned that the hard way, and now we say, okay, stick to 2 minutes. We know that's a workable length to keep kids happy and motivated. All right, we've got a second quick question here from Ella. Is it advisable to slightly help him, like to put one little hand forward, for example, to mix a bit of patterning in? The quick answer to this, Ella, is no. I know it's very tempting. I was very lucky. About a week ago, I got to visit a family who have 2 babies, almost 3 months old. And I got to do the program, with them. It was just a ton of fun. And they asked me the same thing. They said, oh, can we just, sometimes his arm gets a little stuck under his body. Can't we just pull out the arm? But those are actually the learning opportunities for the child, right? The child has to learn, if my arm gets a little stuck under my chest, how do I pull my arm out? If I pull with my arm and now it's straight, how do I get my arm back around? So these are important learning experiences for the child. And so the thing is, if we help them, first of all, we remove those learning experiences. But then the second thing, which is maybe even more serious, is sometimes we create dependency for the child on us. So if the child knows, my mom will put her hand down and I can push with my foot off of my mom's hand, maybe over time they create a dependency, they develop a dependency on that. And then when you aren't there to help them, now they can't crawl down on their own. So again, it's important. Sometimes it's a little tougher for parents because you have to sit there and watch as your baby problem solves. But yeah, and what I say to parents also, sometimes children will complain during this process. They get their arm a little bit under them, and you hear them grunting, as they get their arm out. That's perfectly fine. If a child is in pain, they will let you know, right? They will cry out in a way that my child's uncomfortable. And of course, if a child's ever in pain, you help them, you get them, in whatever way is necessary. But if your child's just complaining a little bit, that's fine. It's a learning experience, and your baby will get better and better on the incline track. And you ask how quickly should he improve if we are doing it well? What results are to be expected? So this is actually a tough question to answer because every child will develop at a different pace. And so your goal right now should just be, how many 2-minute sessions can you get in a day? Like, could you get up to 5 sessions? Could you get up to 10 sessions? Could you even get up to 12 sessions? The more you can do of these brief 2-minute sessions, the better. I was just speaking to a family who had gotten up to 12 sessions in a day, and their child was actually has started crawling now on the flat floor after getting to 12 sessions in a day. So I think that should be your focus right now, trying to increase the number of sessions that you're doing and just making crawling as easy as possible for your baby. Colleen, anything you want to add to the things I've been saying?
No, I think Ella's been in good contact with us. Everything Spencer said, obviously do, and just, take it one step at a time. Try not to drive yourself too crazy. If you have other questions, you can message us step by step. I think it's typical for babies to complain a bit, as they're figuring things out, but they're going to get it. Yeah.
Colleen, I know you mentioned to me that Ella, I think, is coming in the new year. Is that right?
We're working on that. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Got it. Yeah. Because there are, has Ella seen any of the lectures yet? Any of the video online lectures or anything like that?
I can't remember. She has all the books. I think I've given you access to the lectures. Ella, if I haven't, I'll do that.
Perfect,
sorry.
Perfect. Yeah. No, it's okay. It's okay. No, I'm asking more. I think you've gotten off to a great start, Ella. Just focus on increasing those crawling sessions in the day. All right. Let's see. All right. I want to pull up, my one of our staff, Les, recently shared with me comments of families on the Doman program, comments that they gave to us at the end of their appointments. So when a family comes for an appointment at Doman International, we always evaluate their child, and then we customize a program for them. And every child on our program is given 4 different programming sessions with the staff. So they get a nutrition session, which I referenced before, where one of our nutritionists will give a customized nutrition program with supplement recommendations. They have a second session to learn about the Doman Method oxygenation program, which is taught by one of our respiratory staff members. That can be very helpful with things like seizures, speech development, mobility development. They'll have a third session to talk about cognition and sensory development, and a fourth session to talk about mobility development. So these were comments that parents gave after they had been through this process, and they wanted to tell us about their experience. So I'm gonna, Colleen, can you see this? Oh, my screen's going a
Yes,
little crazy.
I can see it
You
very
see that?
well.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
All right. So here
Oh,
it
now it
was.
just got small again, Spence.
It got okay. I adjusted the size a bit. Is it legible
That's
for
okay.
you right now?
We can see all of it now.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is one family's comments. By the way, we've blurred out the child's name just for privacy reasons. So this family said about their appointment experience, we found the sessions with Jordan and Jagjit were very special. We trust them both very much. Jagjit is incredibly supportive. Jordan seems to intuitively know my child's issues and gives great advice. So Jagjit is a member of the Doman International cognitive staff. So she teaches parents sensory development programs, early reading, early math programs, speech development. And Jordan is a member of our physical staff, right? So she's helping immobile children learn to walk, and children who are hyperactive. She'll teach parents physical activities that help improve concentration and focus and reduce hyperactivity. So we asked this family, how could we improve? And they said, in no way. We have a great deal of trust in the entire staff. It always is pleasant to see the Doman International team, and we always feel listened to and are never afraid of being criticized like some of the other organizations that we've gone to. The Doman program is the only thing that has gotten results. So that is that's beautiful. One of the things I really like about this message is about trust. It's about trust. And I think a lot of parents with children with special needs are looking for people who seem to intuitively know their child and also can give them a path forward, but also aren't judgmental. And I think that's what this parent does a great job of remarking upon. Okay. Do you see another comment in front of you now, Colleen, that says, if I had to explain the greatest lesson?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so this is
I
from
do.
another.
I see it.
Okay, perfect. So another parent wrote at the end of their Doman International appointment, if I had to explain the greatest lesson we as parents have learned since starting the program, I would dare to say the only limit our daughter can have in her development is the one set by our own expectations and beliefs as parents. In other words, we learn that the true limits exist only in our minds, and only with the right support, when we believe it is possible, she achieves it. And I think that the beauty of this comment is really about expectations. And this family obviously can see a different future for their child that they couldn't see before. And one of the things we say at Doman International is that we understand the innate intelligence of children with special needs, and we help parents unlock that. And I think that this family is really remarking on that. They didn't really know what their child's potential is, but now they can see it, and they know that they now have the tools they need to help her get there. Colleen, if you want to add any thoughts on these, feel free to. I can't see you anymore because I'm looking at the comments.
Oh, okay.
That's
fair. I understand.
Okay, so this is a message that a family sent in after coming to see Doman International in Miami, Florida. They said, it was amazing. Melissa is incredibly kind and approachable. So Melissa is the director of our mobility development department. So like Jordan, she's teaching parents programs to help immobile children walk, and also to help children develop balance, coordination, stamina, reduce spasticity, improve muscle tone. So they said about Melissa, she was so professional and knowledgeable, and everything went so well. We are beyond happy and deeply grateful to God for placing you all in our path. This was a need we had prayed for, and you are the answers to those prayers. May God bless you all abundantly." And they added, "Thank you, Melissa Doman, for the incredible work that you do for our families," which is beautiful. We're very proud of our staff coaches at Doman International. We only bring people into our clinical department if they have specific, not just knowledge sets, but personality requirements, let's say, where they have to be people who are good problem solvers, because with children with special needs, there are hundreds or perhaps even thousands of symptoms and challenges that a child might face at different points in their childhood and life. And so there's no possible way a professional could be prepared for everything. Even though we train our staff very rigorously, they still can't be trained for everything. Even for me, on a weekly basis, I'm encountering something I've never seen before. And the better a problem solver the staff member is, the greater difference they're going to be able to make in that child's life. They're going to be able to innovate something that works for that child, coach the family through a challenging process that they need help with. And so we take a lot of pride in the kind of people that we hire to be in our clinical staff, people who are incredibly passionate about helping children and working with families. And one of the most important things is they have to be able to listen to parents. The first thing, right before this session, I did a call with a family in Portugal, and the family is facing some challenges. And my first job as a coach is to hear from them what's going on, and then I can help coach them with the next steps. Because very often, as a coach, you learn that the answer lies in the person themselves. They may just not know what the answer is yet. And so if you listen, you can help point that out to them. And, I think by this comment, that's what this parent is saying about Melissa. Here's another great feedback from another parent after their appointment with us at our clinic. They said, "Really enjoyed meeting Dr. Aravind. I felt like I showed up with very complex questions, and he was ready to go and answered in a way that I can understand. We have been seeing a person in functional medicine back home, and after speaking with him, we don't think that we need her anymore. What is the most important takeaway benefit?" Oh, so this is a question that they were asked. The parents were asked, "What was the most important takeaway benefit from your appointment and lectures?" And they said, basically see our above comments. The assessment and follow-up afterwards with Spencer really helped to get things back on track. Dr. Aravind is our director of nutrition and health. He is one of the most knowledgeable people in the world when it comes to children with special needs and their nutrition and health. If I had a child with special needs, he would be the person that I bring their health and nutrition questions to. And so this parent's feedback is like hundreds of other parents who talk about their experience with our nutrition team each day. All right, here's another piece of feedback. So someone said, "The price that DI offers for the visit does not compare with all the expenses families with children with brain injuries have to pay. Physiotherapy, speech, occupational therapy, nutritionists, doctors, etc. Here, one team covers the whole well-being of the child. I was everywhere, also in South Africa with my child. There is not one doctor who wants to help a brain-damaged child. An oxygen enrichment program, no one offers it. For children like my child, they offer just therapies for managing the symptoms. There are no alternative options. Here I found compassion, people who care and give support and daily tools. I want to have tools to help my daughter." And then the parent gave a kind of shout out to Manuela Martini, who's our naturopath at Doman International. She said, "Manuela, her knowledge for nutrition and supplements for my child. Everything is here." What a great comment. Yeah, because one of the best things about the Doman International Clinic is our team. A lot of parents are struck by when they come for an appointment, they will often see 7 or 8 different staff that come from different specializations. And that is really incredible because most parents with a child with special needs feel more like a chauffeur where I was just talking to a family about this earlier this morning. They were saying, oh, we're just going from appointment to appointment with doctors all the time. And, we've really tried to create a one-stop shop here at Doman International where you get your entire team in a single place. All right, last but not least, we have a last message here. This is from another family, and they wrote, I'm writing this email to acknowledge the consistent and professional support that we have been receiving from our staff coach, Jagjit. One side comment here. So every family that comes to the Doman International Clinic is given a staff coach, one member of our clinical team who oversees the child's progress over the entire time that they're on the program, and they answer the questions from the parents, because of course parents are going to hit obstacles and challenges along the way. So the staff coach's job is to help them navigate those questions and challenges and coach them through it. So they're talking about this family's talking about their staff coach, Jagjit, who's their primary contact source at Doman International. They said, I had the director's summary with her yesterday, and it made me think that I should make a special gesture for her hard work and her being around to help us every step of the journey. She's available to answer all of our queries at all times. Even if she's traveling, she always makes sure she acknowledges the query. Also, I know she has been working hard to get the answers from the other staff members when it is required, right? Because if Jagjit is the staff coach for a family, there might be a question she's asked which she has to bring to another department. It might be a question about nutrition. Maybe she can't answer it. She goes to a nutritionist in Doman International. If it's a question about mobility development, she'll go to a mobility staff member. So this parent goes on to say, it's her ongoing support that has made it easy for us to communicate our thoughts, queries, and any concerns we've had throughout the journey. Hence, I was able to even answer her honestly everything I feel about the program so far. I am sure she's a valuable member of the Doman team, and rightly so. She deserves the praises she gets. We are all extremely grateful for having her as our staff coach. Good luck to all of us for this new year. Thank you for the entire team of Doman for helping achieve her goals. So our staff coaches are incredibly passionate. They're highly motivated, and they're positive problem solvers. So they will help parents solve the issues that come up, but always, when possible, in a positive way. One of the things my grandfather used to remark upon, which I've always appreciated, is he said, if you walk through our clinic and you just listen in on the different offices, you're far more likely to hear the staff and the families in an office burst out into laughter than you do hear crying. Now, sometimes there are tears, and sometimes even tears of joy, but you're more likely to hear laughter than you are crying. And I think that says a lot about our clinic, our staff, and our families. So I just wanted to share some feedback. I don't know, in all of my time doing Start the Week with Spencer, I don't know if I've ever shared feedback like this from parents, but I thought you might find it interesting.
I get to talk to families sometimes after, since I register parents for our appointments, I often hear from them later on after they've gotten started with their program. And it's, it makes my job so much easier and more joyful to know that people are really feeling supported in a way that they just have not received anywhere else. It's night and day for most of our families, I think, just in terms of the depth of knowledge of our staff, represented across our staff. So your Rosalind and Douglas are our most senior clinicians. I mean, Rosalind's the director of our clinic. How many years of
experience do they have? Yeah, so Rosalind and Douglas are our most, as you said, experienced staff members. They have 51 years of experience in doing this work. They started trading under my grandfather, both of them in 1974. So they have 5 decades of experience. And then even if you look at, we have staff like Susanna Horn, who has 30 plus years of experience. Staff like Melissa and I were going on about 20 years. I started this work in 2006. So we're getting there. So, once, this was several years ago, we actually sat down and counted all the years of experience. If you added up all of our clinical team together, and I think we are at over 300 years of clinical experience working with children. We'll have to sit down again because I'm sure it's much more now. We've added more people to our team and we've gained a lot more experience. But yeah, it's hundreds of years of combined experience. And I'd like to say that even more special than that.
And I think for parents to know that that's at their disposal.
Yeah, absolutely. And almost all of us were trained by people who had decades of experience under their belts when they trained us. And that helped us reach new heights. I think it was, I don't know, was it Abraham Lincoln who said something like, if I'm able to see further, it's only because I stood on the shoulder of giants. It might have been him, it might have been someone else. But the idea is that, for any of us who might be knowledgeable or enlightened in an area, it's usually because we gained really important information from someone that came before us who showed us the path. So my grandparents got to learn from my grandfather, Glenn, and my grandmother, Katie Doman. I got to work with my grandfather for the last 7 years of his life, which was a great privilege. And I also got to learn from not just my parents, but basically all the staff that learned directly from my grandfather. So there's a lot of downloaded information over the generations. I was recently doing a lecture to doctors and therapists in Croatia. And I said to them, one of the great benefits about having 70 years of experience is that, the obvious thing is you can learn from the people before you about what works. That's really important. But the thing that isn't so obvious is you can also learn from them what didn't work. And I've had this experience before where I'll hear about something, a new trend, and I'll say to my parents, oh, have you heard about this new treatment trend? Maybe we should give it a try. And they'll say something like, oh, we tried that for 5 years in the 70s. It didn't work. And it's like, oh, okay. So first of all, 50 years ago, they tried this thing out and they learned it didn't work back then. So great. Now we don't have to spend 5 years now wasting time on it because we already know it doesn't work. And unfortunately, now that we've been doing this work for 70 years, obviously not me, but the family and the team, you start to see things recycled too. And that's kind of sad. You'll see something that was tried 30 years ago. It didn't work. So over time, parents used it less and less. But now a new generation of parents have showed up. And so now there are professionals who are kind of saying, oh, this works again, because now you have a fresh set of parents who don't have other parents to talk to. So, something like the Doman Method doesn't stick around for 70 years unless it gets results. Because especially in the world of children with special needs, parents will only tell other parents about treatments that work. And that's why word of mouth is such an important reason that our program spreads. Well, we've got one last question here on Instagram that comes from Manar. Manar says, I started the Doman program now with my infant who's 6 months old, but I feel like I'm late. I'd love to give math and Arabic and English reading. Is that too much? I'm afraid if I delay one of them, it's too late. So first of all, this is one of my favorite questions. Is it too late? The answer is no. And especially if your child is 6 months old, then you're definitely far from being too late. My advice for you, Manar, would just be to start with one of those programs and make sure you can do it successfully and consistently before you layer in the others. My personal recommendation would be to start the thing you're most excited to begin. So you mentioned reading in Arabic, reading in English, and math. If I were you, I think you should ask yourself, what's the thing I most am excited to get started with? And you begin with that. By the way, if you go to domanlearning.com, there are reading materials both in English and in Arabic. So you might be interested in knowing that, domanlearning.com. But there are also the math courses and materials there for any parent who's interested in early childhood education for a child. Manar, if your child has any developmental delays or special needs, reach out to us. Shoot us a message on Instagram at Doman International, and Colleen can give you further recommendations. If you're just interested in early childhood education for a 6-month-old, then I would recommend domanlearning.com. All right. Any last thoughts, Colleen, before we end off the session?
Just that here we are in December already, which is something else. And just a reminder to everybody who is joining us, if you are thinking about registering for an appointment with our team anytime in the new year, please do not hesitate. Don't wait until the end of the month to get in touch with me, because we are scheduling now. I just scheduled my first appointment for February the other day, so it's just going to keep on filling up. So if you're thinking like sometime next year you'd like to come for an appointment, please get in touch sooner rather than later. Okay, that's the most important thing, so we can get started.
Colleen, can you share your contact info?
Absolutely. So my phone number, I have WhatsApp on that number as well, is country code 1-814-232-8668. And my email address is info@domaninternational.org. That is my direct email. So please, please be in touch.
Perfect. Well, Colleen, thank you so much for joining. Everyone, thanks for coming. And we'll be back here next week at the same time.
Thank you.
Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.
See you.